Greetings, and welcome to the basement. Yes, the channel has been rebooted. For no real reason whatsoever. Yeah. So to celebrate this new reboot, let's talk about a game you guys have been wanting me to talk about for a really long time. SCP Containment Breach. In my opinion, SCP Containment Breach is the perfect example of an experiment gone right. I mean, when you get down to the bare bones of it, that's all this game really is. An experiment. It's a free downloadable indie game, still one of the scariest I've ever played, featuring everyone's favorite hand-sculpted monstrosity, SCP-173. Or as some like to call him, the Sculpture. He's horrifying. And adorable. There's porn of him on the internet, too. Don't ask me how I know that. Truth be told, there's actually a lot of different creatures in the game. The developer keeps regularly updating and adding more to it, including an evil mask with a mind of its own, a spooky shadow man who transports you to his own dark dimension, a talking computer with high sentient intelligence, a pale monster that kills you if you look it directly in the face, the list goes on. All of these are based on stories from the SCP Foundation, a website that's sort of like the X-Files meets Wikipedia meets creepypasta. I've been a fan of this site for a really long time, even before the game was in production. I've been a quiet part of the community, and I've even written a few of my own SCP articles. Like this one, about a giant sleeping fish thing. It's terrible, don't read it. Now, the one thing that amazes me about this game is just how well the SCP stories translate into video game form. These ideas are just perfect for interactive horror. Essentially, SCP Containment Breach isn't so much a game as it is an agonizing little trip through hell. There isn't much of a story, or any real depth to the whole thing, but boy is it horrifying. The game just drops you into a building with all these SCPs on the loose, and quite frankly, it makes you want to cry. It's a game full of jump scares. Not cheap jump scares, but deep jump scares. Yeah, I think jump scares can have depth. Why not? A good jump scare can be crafty and admirable, as long as there's a reason for it. As long as it's truly effective, or comes about as the result of something genuinely horrifying. Take the Sculpture, for example, the main villain of the game. Whenever this creature appears, it's absolutely startling. And it's not just because of the sound effects. It's not because the game is being cheap or just trying to get a jolt out of you. No, it's startling because the creature appeared. Because it can appear, and you know it can only move when you aren't looking at it. This means the jump scares are in your hands, not the Sculpture's. What's even worse is the blinking mechanic. You know, the fact that whenever this little timer runs out, you have to blink. And when you do blink, the Sculpture's gonna come closer, and closer, and closer, until he can get his hands on your squishy little neck and rip it in half. So yeah, if you run into this thing, you have to run away. You have to get as far from it as possible, and that alone is terrifying. Honestly, the game doesn't even need anything else. It could just leave you alone with this thing in an empty building, and it would never stop being scary. Now the sculpture actually has an opposite in the game too. Like I said before, there's another creature that kills you if you look at it. The Shy Guy. This, for me, is a lot scarier, because you have to turn your back to it at all times. Whereas the sculpture will kill you any moment you look away from it, the Shy Guy is much more human, more agitated in nature. He doesn't want you to look at him, and if you do look at him, he's going to get upset. God, I wonder what it'd be like if one of the Mario Shy Guys were like this. Yoshi, don't look at him. Don't look at him, Yoshi. Oh God, Yoshi, he's right behind you. No, Yoshi, don't look at him! But if I had to pick the scariest monster in the game, I'd probably have to go with this guy. The creepy old Shadow Man. Not because he looks scary or sounds scary, but because he's the only monster in the game that you can't control. He appears at random, he can walk through walls, he can spawn from the floor or the ceiling, and he'll follow you for a really long time. If he's able to catch you, he won't exactly kill you, but instead will teleport you to this weird shadow world. I've always loved this place. It's like being stuck in a nightmare. It's creepy, it's bizarre. Come to think of it, that's another thing this game does very well. It makes you fear things other than death. A lot of the creatures in the game kill you in totally different ways, and some of them don't even kill you at all. They just spend their time scaring the living shit out of you. We all know the best horror games are the ones that let your mind do all the work, where paranoia fuels your intimidation, and the knowledge of danger is much more effective than actual danger. And that's what this game is like. So, while Containment Breach may be sort of a shallow, jump-heavy experience and nothing more, I still admire it. To me, it sort of serves as a reminder of how effective video game horror is. Video games are a hell of a lot scarier than movies, simply because the possibilities are just boundless. In a horror movie, you can make a jump scare, you can create a monster, you can have it pop out, and yeah, if you do it right, it'll be jumpy. But in a video game, you can create a monster and set it loose. You can drop the player in the dark, program your monster to appear at random, and right there, you, my friend, have created hell. Unlike a movie, it'll be different every single time. There'll be no knowing when the jump scares are coming. There'll be no knowing who's gonna die, who's gonna live, or how things will turn out. And that's what makes video game horror so great. Not only do you feel like you're inside a game, due to its interactive elements, but a game rarely needs to be a scripted experience. It tells the tale of your survival, not the main characters. So yeah, on the whole, I like SCP Containment Breach. I think it's not only a good horror game, but a good experiment. It's not deep or anything, but it does represent the deepest possibilities of horror. The horror genre is something special, something truly unique. It's the only genre that gets stronger and stronger through experimentation. While other types of games can be ruined by the mere idea of experimenting, survival horror is quite different. The more you experiment, the more horrifying your game becomes. And with all its unmatchable terrors, SCP Containment Breach proves it.